Hey everyone, it's Brett Hornby here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Got my Calgary Roughnecks jersey on for this video, because I actually got some Calgary Roughnecks news to share, and actually this kind of seemed to come out of left field. Excuse me, that actually the NLL for the 2021 season had their NLL Entry Draft. Actually, it seemed to be a month earlier than usual. So in this video, we'll recap what the Calgary Roughnecks did at the NLL Entry Draft, who they selected, and we'll just touch upon a couple of off-season items that I know that I can find that we're going to head into the 2021-22 season, as I already made a video that there is a return plan. So hopefully I'll get back into the roughhouse for the Calgary Roughnecks this season. So ultimately, the Calgary Roughnecks selected 7 players in the 2021 NLL Draft, and they started off with the number 6th overall pick. But keep in mind, there was a couple trades that the Calgary Roughnecks made, and the fact that the Panther City Lacrosse is joining the NLL this season. That's a new team that's going to be based out of Fort Worth, the Panther City Lacrosse team. But ahead of the entry draft, the Calgary Roughnecks actually made a trade for another pick, as they traded both defenders Tad Cummings and Anthony Kellenich, who actually were going to the Panther City Lacrosse team. That's going to be based out of Fort Worth, Texas. So we got the 15th overall pick in that draft. So we did make a trade ahead of it. So now if we get into the actual draft itself, I'm not quite sure how they figured out the order in this case. I know that there was no season last season because it was canceled due to the pandemic. But ultimately the Calgary Roughnecks started off with the number 6th overall pick. There are 6 rounds in this draft. So with the 6th overall pick, the Calgary Roughnecks actually selected Kyle Walters, who actually played from Brooklin MSL. So that's where we got our first pick from. And then the second pick, there was a trade that we made, is that we acquired the 10th overall selection in this draft from the Philadelphia Wings, in exchange for that 15th overall pick that we picked up from the Panther City Lacrosse and the 2nd round pick in 2022. And then the club also acquired the 20th overall pick from the Colorado Mammoth for the 22nd overall pick, and then the former 2018 5th round pick Tyson Kirknick. So the Calgary Roughnecks did make a couple of draft day selections. So after all that activity, I'll put everything in the description below. They could follow along. That now, after the 6th overall pick, the Calgary Roughnecks must have found someone that they liked higher up, that they didn't think would still be on the board at number 15. So now with the 10th overall pick, still in the 1st round, the Calgary Roughnecks signed drafted transitional in Justin Yanko, who also played at Brooklin MSL. So we got a couple teammates in Kyle Walters and Justin Yanko. So that was the first 2 players that the Calgary Roughnecks drafted. And now in the 2nd round, 20th overall, after those couple trades with the Colorado Mammoth, the Calgary Roughnecks drafted forward Dylan McIntosh, a forward who has played at the Maple Ridge WLA. And then after that, the Calgary Roughnecks had their picks as where they normally are ahead of the draft when the selections were picked out. So basically it looked like they picked the best player available and just got more organizational depth, because they've practically picked a player from every position. So in the 3rd round, 38th overall, the Calgary Roughnecks drafted transitional player in Carter McKenzie, who played at Burlington OLA. So that's the 3rd round selection. And then the 4th round selection, 53rd overall, the Calgary Roughnecks drafted goaltender Adam Bland, who played at the Victoria BCLA. And then the 5th round, 68th overall, they drafted forward in Daire, who played for the Kitchener-Waterloo OLA. And then the last pick that the Calgary Roughnecks made in the 6th round, 6th and final round, 82nd overall, was forward in Daire Yanko, who played with New Westminster for BCLA. So we got a couple players from Ontario and British Columbia by the looks of it. And I think the Brooklin MSL is out in New York. So we went to New York, Ontario, and British Columbia for all the players. So to recap the the draft class for the Calgary Roughnecks, we have Kyle Waters for the first pick, 6th overall. And then the second pick, 10th overall, still in the first round, was Justin Yanko, transition. And then the third player we drafted was forward Dylan McIntosh. That was the 2nd round pick, 20th overall. And then the 3rd round selection, 38th overall, was Carter McKenzie, a transition. 4th round pick was goaltender Adam Bland in 53rd overall. 5th round pick, 68th overall, was Daire Newbrough, the forward. And then the last player, 6th round, 82nd overall, was forward Daire Yanko. And then we go back to the trades that the Calgary Roughnecks made, is that coming in, they acquired the 15th overall pick first from the Panthers City Lacrosse as they traded Chad Cummings and Anthony Kalich. So those are the two players that are going to the Panthers City Lacrosse, the new team out of Fort Worth, Texas. And then at the draft day table, I meant to say, they acquired the 10th round selection from Philadelphia in exchange for that 15th round selection and a 22nd round pick in 2022. So they traded away 2 picks to move up. And then they swapped the 22nd overall pick for the 20th overall pick. And then they traded away a player in Tyson Kirkness. So they traded away 3 players for 2 draft picks, and then they made a couple of trades. So I'll put all that in the description below. And I guess for season tickets, it says that the 21-22 season tickets are on sale starting on September 8th. So I'll definitely going to have to keep my eye out on that. As I know at the time that I asked for a refund for my tickets, when the pause happened, that apparently my seat was going to get given up, but then I emailed the Flames a couple months ago that apparently I didn't. So I'm planning on re-upping my tickets to get back into the Rough House. And actually, I think part of the return plan that the Calgary Roughnecks' first game, I think, was going to be on December 4th. And we would be playing the Buffalo Bandits, but that game will be in Buffalo. So we'll still see what the schedule comes out when the Calgary Roughnecks will play their first game at the Dome. It's definitely been way too long since I've been in the Saddledome. Inside the Saddledome, that is. I've definitely been outside around it with my Corral Demolition videos and the Calgary Stampede. But who would have thought that game, I could tell you the events leading up to the last game was at the end of February 2020. I got to play with a Border Collie just before the game. There was a Border Collie that was out. There was like some kind of home and garden show at the BMO Center. Back when those things happened, big gatherings and home and garden shows at the BMO Center Event Center. I remember the guy had a gazebo on the outside. There was a Border Collie and wanted to play fetch. Of course, I got to play fetch with a Border Collie. And then the game itself, I remember, had a very, very controversial ending. And then since then, shit happened, and haven't been able to go to the Saddledome since then per game. So it's definitely a lot of time has come along all the way. So that's that part. And then I know when it comes to free agent frenzy, or there hasn't been as much free agent news that I can find, but I know a couple big names for the Calgary Roughnecks aren't returning. I know that Reese Dutch, the forward, who scored that overtime winner back in 2019, 17 years ago it seems like. But I know that he signed with the San Diego Seals, but I think that was going into 2020. I'm not too sure if he's retired or still going to play, because when I searched for Reese Dutch, I know he did sign with San Diego. He is now a realtor back on the island. But then the biggest player that is gone is Dane Dobbie. Yes, Dane Dobbie. He actually did sign with the San Diego Seals, so be interested to see how that works out. But our all-time leading scorer is not coming back. He is going to the San Diego Seals, but that's all I can find when it comes to any other free agency news. I just know the big names going elsewhere. I mean, we've got a lot of our eternal business signed, but after when you haven't had lacrosse for a couple of years, you almost have to catch up, and pretty much going to need your program to see a bunch of new players, especially with the draft class from this year and last year, and still trying to catch up when it comes to the CFL because of all the turnover and new names. Because when you haven't had games for a couple of years, some people have to move on, do other things, especially in these leagues where you don't make millions of dollars that you can live off it. But that's all I have for the Calgary Roughnecks draft recap for 2021. This seemed to come a little earlier than I planned because the last couple of years it's happened in the end of September, but this is towards the end of August where this has happened. So that's who we drafted. So we'll see how these players work out. And welcome to the Rough House. And then of course all the other tidbits about what I know about Calgary Roughnecks in terms of other off-season business. It's been a lot quieter this year compared to last year, but I'm just looking forward to finally getting back into the Rough House, playing with a Border Collie or not. So anyways, like I say, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey, home of the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, I mostly do talk Calgary sports on my YouTube channel, like recap games and story. And yes, when we do get back into playing games in December, as plans go, I'll be back with my Calgary Roughnecks this month, recapping games, how this Roughnecks has done throughout the season. And I do plan to get my tickets again when that happens. But when I have time and the energy, I do a variety of non-other sports content like personal vlogs, attempt at comedy, and I do share my experience there on the road at a sporting event. But lately I just haven't had the time, and given what's been going on the last couple of years, I definitely have been suffering through COVID fatigue and burnout, so that's why it's been a lot more of the content that I've been making. And I did some vlogging on the go earlier this year, but I've taken a break from that because I've been busier with the sports content the last couple months, and the COVID fatigue and burnout. What I mean by COVID fatigue is the mental health and just everything that's been associated with it's been burning me out, plus the work and responsibilities and all that. But still, that being said, if that all sounds like it'd be interesting to watch, to follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey, just make sure you like and subscribe. I also have my other social links down in the description below. This is my main channel, but I also made a separate channel called Brett Hornby Shorts almost a couple months ago, where on that channel I exclusively put YouTube shorts on there, so you can check that out. So I appreciate like and subscribe on both my channels. So I'm going to say go Next Go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.